welcome to this edition of Bitcoin Brief. I'm Christine Lee, your host, and we've got Tone Vays with us, as well as Jimmy Song. Tone Vays, the host of Unconfiscatable, a very popular conference in Las Vegas. Jimmy Song, author of the Little Bitcoin book, as well as Programming Bitcoin. Guys, good to see you guys. How are things going in your neck of the woods, Tone?
Good, not bad. It's going to get real interesting now with the election coming up. The first debate's happening next week. And yeah, these lockdowns, Corona is still out of control. Well, the coronavirus is not out of control. The people are out of control. I'm going to try to tweet more information on it like I did today with a very informative video from a very qualified person to speak on the subject. So check that out, guys. It's pinned on my Twitter page.
Excellent. Yeah, elections are up. Who knows if there'll be a peaceful transition of power? Jimmy, how are things going on?
Things are interesting as usual. This is the year of craziness. I think 2020 will be looked upon as one of those years that was just absolutely insane. I imagine
maybe Jimmy, maybe. I mean, the winners get to write the history books, right? Like in 100 years, this could be the year that, like, you know, the amazing year that brought on the new powers of communism. So you never know.
It could be looked upon as like, Bolshevik revolution or something. It's possible.
Right.
I mean, I'm very, I'm still sad at the current state of affairs. And if it wasn't for Bitcoin, I think I'd be downright depressed. So I am very happy that we have something positive to talk about.
Yes, I think we all agree. We wish we could cancel 2020. As it is, taking a look at the markets are actually up today, and so is Bitcoin. Let's take a look at some of the headlines. I will start sharing my screen. And first up, we've got the craziness, the clown show, as Tone likes to call it, of the Bitcoin Cash crew. So the challenger, BCHN, is gaining minor majority ahead of the fork. So the Bitcoin Cash community appears to be signaling support for the upcoming BCHN fork, with 82% of the hash power supporting the implementation. So a fork in November is increasingly looking like it's going to happen, with 63% of the last 1,000 BCH blocks being mined using the community's breakaway Bitcoin Cash node, BCHN implementation. Of course, there's this conflict within the community because on one side, BCHN does not want to pay a developer tax, whereas the ABC team, led by developer Amaury Sachet, says, hey, we need more money for these developers to get this protocol going. We don't have enough money. We can't just rely on community contributions, but the BCHN team thinks they can. And altogether, it's a pretty really strange situation in the sense that, yeah, Amaury Sachet is saying that the ABC will not be accepting the BCHN blocks. The BCHN blocks will be accepting ABC. So if any point BCHN trails ABC, that chain will be entirely wiped out. So Jimmy, I'll give this one to you first. What are your thoughts on this situation?
I think Amaury forgot about the 10-block reorg rule, and that's the thing that will cause a permanent split. Now, he is right in the sense that if you, for anyone that's running, well, so let me explain first what's going on. BCHN is a fork of Bitcoin ABC that doesn't have the developer subsidy or developer tax. Bitcoin ABC is implementing a developer tax of around 8% of every mining reward. Miners look like they are not going to support this tax because the revenue comes directly from them. Although with two coins, there's, I guess, some arbitrage that they can do and so on. We're not really sure exactly how that's going to play out. But that said, BCHN it is sort of dominated by Bitcoin ABC in the sense that if Bitcoin ABC is trailing and then Bitcoin ABC overtakes BCHN, then it should then BCHN should take those blocks, except that there's a 10 block reorg rule that they instituted in the last hard fork that they had with Bitcoin SV. So as a result of that, what that means is that if BCHN has a lead for 10 blocks, and it could be any 10 blocks and not a lead of 10 blocks, but it could be a 1 block lead for 10 consecutive blocks. If that ever happens, then it's a permanent fork. Anyone that's currently running BCHN will go to that. Now, if at some point Bitcoin ABC is longer than BCHN, any new clients that start running BCHN may go over to the Bitcoin ABC side. And that's, I think, what he's talking about, but I don't think that's going to be that many. And if it is longer, then they can always put in replay protection or something like that in the next, 45 days or something like that until the actual hard fork happens. So it's I don't think Amory's actually thought this through, to be honest. He thinks that soft forks have an advantage. This is the advantage that Segwit had over the old guard. This was the same situation in 2017 that he's trying to use, except he forgot that there were a bunch of hard forks on Bitcoin Cash. So that's not necessarily a big deterrent for them. I think what's going to end up happening is that they're going to hard fork in a way so that they have replay protection for both. If Amory continues down this road, and there's no reason to think why he wouldn't continue down this road. So yeah, I mean, they're hitting all-time lows today for this reason. There's I think they're at around 2% of Bitcoin, still higher than what Tone predicted back in 2017, but still, I mean, it's a far cry from the 15% that it was back in late 2017.
Speaking of the price, we have a tweet from Tone. Jimmy Song and I will air Bitcoin Brief Show in a few hours. Update BCash, BCH hard fork. Would love an update on this article as price just hit a new all-time low versus BTC. All right, Tone, your thoughts?
Yeah, so Jimmy's right. BCash did hit a brand new all-time low today against Bitcoin. It fell slightly below 2% on most exchanges. It is slightly above 2% right now, but that's clearly not going to last very, very long. Hey, let's go back to that article because I am starting to get confused a little bit again. So I'm going to ask Jimmy some questions here. Also, Jimmy, you were saying about the 10 block reorg. You meant the 10 block checkpoint, but you didn't mention the word checkpoint. But
it's not exactly a checkpoint, but because it's not in the software, they do have checkpoints. So that might get put in at some point, in which case that would permanently seal it. So if at any point either side, if BCHN puts in a checkpoint, then it's over. It's a permanent fork. But it's not exactly a checkpoint because it's a 10 block rolling reorg rule. So the rule is that it will not reorg more than 10 blocks. So if the BCHN maintains a lead for more than 10 blocks, then it's done.
Okay,
it's a permanent fork.
Can we back up here for a second because here's where the confusion is. And if I'm confused, and I've been in this space for 7 years now, I can only imagine the rest of the field. And granted, I don't really pay that much attention to this shitcoin. So we have BCH. We know what BCH is. When BSV was forking from BCH, it was actually pretty straightforward. BCH is barely mentioned in this article. All they talk about in this article is BCHN and ABC. So which one of them is claiming to be BCH, or both of them are, obviously?
Both of them are clients at BCH, and by running that software, I guess you as a node runner are saying that that's what you believe BCH to be.
So okay, so we had that other article where we covered this, and that article like broke down the details, and it fully made sense to me. but this article doesn't. Christine, if you can scroll down a little bit further so that like there's a bunch of text there. Okay, here we go. So Emerson Shea is Bitcoin ABC developer, correct? Or is he Bitcoin Unlimited?
Bitcoin ABC.
He's Bitcoin ABC. Okay. But the BCHN is Amarissa Shea's BCash, or is that the non-Amarissa Shea's BCash?
Non-Amarissa Shea. That's
Okay,
a fork
so
of Bitcoin ABC.
Okay.
Former Bitcoin ABC developers actually are running it.
Okay. So Amarissa Shea is basically he's almost like kicked out of Bitcoin ABC's development, kind of like a Gavin Andresen situation, right?
Except he kicked everyone else out and they went to BCHN.
So it's the opposite of the Gavin Andresen situation. So it's the inverse of the Gavin Andresen situation in Bitcoin. So Emerson Shea kicked everybody out of Bitcoin ABC.
Well, he didn't kick them out. They left on their own, but they clearly didn't agree with where he was going with it. Yeah.
So are those developers that are no longer emailing with Emerson Shea? What are they calling themselves? Are they calling themselves the BCHN crew? Like, what's their moniker?
Yeah, Bitcoin Cash Node. That's the name of the software instead.
Okay,
of
see, we're breaking down like the logic here. Okay, so they're the BCHN people. Okay, got it. So why didn't they just join the Bitcoin Unlimited crew?
I think the logic was that it would be difficult for exchanges and miners that are already running Bitcoin ABC to switch to something like Bitcoin Unlimited. But drop-in replacement like BCHN would be a lot easier. So they did it for that reason.
Got it. So BCHN doesn't want to change anything. Their business as usual, or are they sneaking something in on the same day?
I believe it's everything that Bitcoin ABC has except for the dev text. That's it.
Okay, so Emerson Shea is going commando in releasing a client with a developer subsidy. Now, the rest of the guys are now the BCHN crew. Now, the BCHN crew is claiming that they have more hashing power. So as long as nobody, so as long as nobody mines the, man, this is so confusing. Like, they shouldn't call themselves BCHN. They should just continue to call themselves BCH. Well, I mean,
this is the software name, the name of the software. So there's no BCH software. It's just Bitcoin ABC is the software for BCH.
Right. Okay, so it's Bitcoin ABC software, and because Emerson Shea has the keys to that software, he's releasing an update that the BCH node people don't want anybody running.
Specifically the dev text.
Okay.
What will the exchanges take? Will they take BCHN and call it BCH? Will they get the tag?
We don't know. We don't know. That's up to the exchanges. I personally think if you're an exchange, I would stay far away from this mess and make people withdraw their BCH before November 15th. But yeah.
No, I know people in the chat keep saying, why do we care? Why do we care? There is a reason for my madness here. I'll get to the point in 1 second. So the view is that because most of the miners are not interested in giving up 8% of their profit, which they shouldn't be, that the former ABC developers that are now BCHN developers, they believe that Emerson Shea's client will not get 10 consecutive blocks, because if it does, then shit hits the fan.
Well, not 10 consecutive blocks. So the way the ABC and BCHN, I think the way that Amory thinks it'll work is like a soft fork with the user activated soft fork back in 2017, which was that if the UASF had a lead over everybody else, then you would get a complete wipeout of the chain up until then. And that's what he thinks will happen, except there's a 10 block reorg rule, which means that if it reorganizes more than 10 blocks, it's not going to wipe it out. So that in turn means that it's going to be a permanent split after 10 blocks. If like it could be 10-9 or 10-1. It doesn't matter.
I'm sorry, back up. So which one? So is going to be a permanent split because
All right, so let me put it this way. If ABC has more blocks than BCHN, then BCHN is obligated to take the ABC blocks, because even though they pay a subsidy.
And the ABC blocks have the minor dev tax.
Yeah, because it's a soft fork. It's
Right.
the dev tax is quote unquote voluntary, but Bitcoin ABC enforces it, whereas BCHN doesn't.
Okay, so in a way, the BCHN crew is actually being overly confident that that's not going to happen.
Well, there's good reason. There's 82% hash rate on BCHN, and there's the 10 block reorg rule. So if it's like 50-50, you're probably not gonna.
I'm sorry. So go back to that. Look. I want to know is how can Bitcoiners help make this a bigger clusterfuck than it is? Should we
just ignore it? There's no like shenanigans that you can run really, and I would advise against that. This is a conflict between those two, and I don't think they understand the technical limitations of what's going to happen. Let them be. They'll figure it out on their own. I'm sure BCHN will put in some sort of replay protection soon enough. If Amore follows, then they'll probably change the reorg rule to like 2 or something like that, so that it's going to be permanent fairly quick. Or they'll put in some sort of a checkpoint soon after release, so that nobody goes on the wrong chain or something. But like trying to go in there and muck with it, I wouldn't do that. I would never advise anyone to do that, because
why not? All these shit coins are always doing it to Bitcoin.
No, Tone, you don't understand. These are like, especially like with people like Calvin Ayre, you do not want to get on like.
No, but Calvin Ayre is not involved in this mess. He's in a whole.
He's not, but there are still like very bad people in that space that will like do something evil to you. And like it's one thing to make fun of them, which we are doing, obviously. It's another to maliciously like mess up their chain or use your hash power.
Right? Wait, stop. Look, I have one miner running, right? And this miner is totally useless on the Bitcoin side. But
it's also not going to be very useful on their side either.
Oh, but
you have too little.
Nearly 100 times more useful.
And Tone, I really don't think that's a good idea. If you do that and somebody finds out you did that, guess what they're going to do? You think it's going to be easy to keep up your videos on YouTube? I mean, they are going to swamp your YouTube with all sorts of copyright violations, all sorts of crap that you don't need to deal with.
Doing that?
No. It's going to get like 10 times worse, because in a sense, what you're doing is, at least the way they'll take it is, they're attacking me just because they don't like me, and in a way that actually hurts the network. And I've had like whales come up to me and suggest different ways to attack this or that, and I always say, don't do it. That's so stupid. Essentially, you're putting a giant target on your back, and these people have some weapons, and they're going to shoot them at you. Now, you could probably shoot them back or whatever, but starting a war is not the way to do this, and that it's just a very bad idea all around.
But okay,
there's enough drama in 2020.
So
I'm telling you, don't do it. If you're tempted to do it, if you have a large mining farm or whatever, believe me, you're going, like, they're going to try to hurt you back if you hurt their network. That's just how people are. And if you don't think so, yeah, try punching someone in the face and see if they react. Like, of course they're going to react. It's one thing to make fun of them. It's another to like seriously like poke them in the eye. That's not a good idea. Don't do it.
All right. Anyway, well, what I was trying to figure out is like, where should bored people with some hashing power point their hashing power to basically show what nonsense this is? Because like, Jimmy, your approach, I mean, it's noble in a way. Hey, we're taking the moral high ground.
It's completely self-centered. It's so that I don't get like killed by these people or done like. All it takes is one deranged lunatic that thinks that you ruined the best thing ever for them to like come and kill you or do something.
Don't worry,
really
I already got
nasty
1,000 Ripple people for that. Okay, so but anyway,
no. Like, it's one thing to like say something on video. It's another if they think you're actually actively attacking their coin. You never went on the Ripple network and tried to start your own masternode or whatever the hell they do, like and like mess up their like phone home or like take over the Ripple domain and try to redirect people. That's the sort of thing you're talking about. Something that crosses the boundary from ethical to unethical is not a good idea. You're putting a giant target on your back, and they have some justification in attacking you back.
Okay. No, Jimmy, I understand you, but like, I'm just saying, like to prove a point, if more people actually did that and destroyed some of these shit coins, less people would invest in other shit coins, and the world would get back to normal sooner. Because so I don't have a problem with look, Bitcoin.
I think that's a very first order thinking. There's multiple, like, what do you think those people that got whose shit coins like went to zero are? Who do you think they're gonna blame? They're not going to blame themselves. They're going to blame people like you that screwed with their network. I mean, and they're going to like file lawsuits. They're going to do all sorts. It's not a good idea to start a war.
No, but that's
not the thing.
But that's horrible logic and thinking. Like here's what I tweeted, 2 years ago or a year ago when Binance got hacked and CZ had this silly notion on no sleep that maybe he has enough pull with miners to reverse the transactions, and my tweet was, please reverse the transaction, CZ, because I don't want to waste another 5 years in Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is going to get destroyed by one whale, I want it to be sooner than later so I can stop wasting my time in this space. So I fully believe that people are always going to try to attack Bitcoin and destroy it, and my money is in Bitcoin because I believe that Bitcoin will
that's true. I want people to attack Bitcoin, but I don't want people to attack me, and I don't want people to attack you. And that's the thing. You're a lot more vulnerable than Bitcoin is, and that's a fact of life. Is that you have flesh and blood, and you have to eat, and you have to sleep, and things like that. Bitcoin does not. So Bitcoin's a lot less vulnerable than you, Tone. And if you buy a ton of hash power to go and mess with Bitcoin ABC during their hard fork and screw something up so that their coin goes to zero, you are in danger, not Bitcoin. And I don't recommend anyone put themselves in that sort of position without fully knowing all of the consequences, because the consequences are not small. There's a reason why a coin with 2% of the market cap of Bitcoin hasn't been attacked, even though it is trivially easy for almost any mining pool to do so. It's because they know that starting a war like that will get them screwed over, and that they'll be facing all sorts of legal charges, all sorts of hacks on their domain. Because once you cross that ethical line, pretty much like they have justification to do all sorts of nasty things to you. I mean, as much as we complain about the altcoiners and shitcoiners in this space, they're not crossing certain lines, because they know that the minute they do, they might get arrested or have lawsuits against them or whatever. And the fact of the matter is, you don't want to cross that line, because if you're the one to first cross it, they can cross back and do some nasty things to you. Don't start a war. Just that. I mean, that's my point.
And it seems they're self-destructing on their own accord, and you don't really need to do anything.
Why bother when they're doing a good job shooting themselves in the foot?
All right, guys, you heard us, Jimmy. Let's leave the clown show alone. We'll just laugh. But by the way, I'm reading the comments, and you and I split the audience on this one, Jimmy. Half of them are supporting me, and half of them are supporting you.
Well, I mean, they're fine with you screwing up the network because you're the one that gets to put target print. But ask them if they're willing to do it. I mean, not many of them that have the means would be willing to do so, because the people that came into that kind of wealth to be able to attack something like that probably don't want to, because they know how much risk they're taking. The risk reward here is not good at all. You might end up killing the coin, but then you're putting a giant target on your back, and
I actually do have a quick
somebody
question.
might hire someone to kill you or something.
No, we don't want that. Jimmy, I am curious if you have if you have BCH right now and it splits, but you'll have both coins, right? You mentioned you should withdraw your if you have BCH.
Yeah, so exchange. So if it splits permanently, which I think it almost certainly will, if they are in the current position, then you'll have, if you have 10 Bitcoin ABC, you'll have 10 Bitcoin. I take 10 Bitcoin Cash right now. You'll have 10 Bitcoin ABC and 10 Bitcoin N, BCHN. So, that how that will work out. Generally, in past hard forks, it's ended up that the sum afterwards tends to be a little higher, but that's a game for traders to play. I don't really know. Bitcoin Cash, before it split to Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV, actually, like, from before then to now, I think combined total is like 3.5%. Before it happened, it was like 7%, something like that. So it's definitely gone down over time. So it's a lot of work for exchanges, because they're going to have to support both clients and provide replay protection and things like that, which honestly, the poor engineers that have to deal with it, that's not fun. And you have to audit both code bases and make sure that they're not putting in anything crazy or malware-ish and things like that. So,
and if you have it on a hard wallet or something, how do you get both of them and keep track of all that?
So this is where the hardware wallet manufacturer has to give you some sort of tool in order to split them, and there's no guarantee that they'll release such a tool. Now there are ways to do it from a software perspective, and I'm a programmer, so I know how to do some of that stuff. But it's not so simple, and this is why hard forks kind of suck, and this is why we railed against it back in 2017 with Bitcoin.
All right, big mess. Moving on, we do have David Portnoy saying that Bitcoin is a big Ponzi scheme, but he'll be back. So Dave is the CEO of Barstool Sports, or whatever. Yeah, Barstool Sports founder. He did a podcast with Pomp and mentioned that he's now exiting Bitcoin. He thinks it's a giant Ponzi scheme. He got wiped out on altcoins, really, claiming a loss of 25,000. And so, before he was saying he generated this excitement at the beginning of the year, but now he's admitted that, he's had this loss. He admitted that he bought about $50,000 worth of BTC during the price increase in 2017. So he did maybe he made a profit out of Bitcoin, but when he exited, he did lose out because of those altcoins. Seems like he's a little bit confused.
Well, he also lost the hardware wallet. So
he also, yeah. Portnoy saying that he lost the hardware wallet holding his coins. So, all right. Do you want to comment on that, Jimmy?
I think he needs a little more humility in all of this. It seems that he's conflating Bitcoin with altcoins. I think most altcoins are Ponzi schemes, like straight up, and he's right about that. But he's because of this confusion between cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, he's like lumping them all together where you really shouldn't. I think his instinct is right that it is a Ponzi scheme for a lot of other stuff, but Bitcoin is not, and it'll take him a few more years before he actually figures that out. If he figures it out at all. But the fact that he lost his hardware wallet, that's kind of like, dude,
that says it all.
Like, I'm sure he makes way more money than $50,000 running Barstool Sports. It's a very popular website. So in a sense, I get it. He probably doesn't care that much about that little. But this is the thing about Bitcoin. You put in a small position, it soon grows to be a large percentage of your net worth. And he'll learn that soon enough if he actually held. But, maybe he'll find this hardware wallet and he'll get back into it again. Yeah,
and apparently he was doing a bunch of pump and dump techniques while he had his foray into crypto. Tony, you want to weigh in?
No, well, Jimmy said it best. See, that's the thing. I never bought his bullshit the first time I ever heard of him when he did that video. and I'm not really buying his bullshit now. It's like I lost my hardware wallet, like we all lost our Bitcoin in a boating accident. So I didn't buy his bullshit then. I'm not buying his bullshit now. I mean, I thought everyone made a big deal out of it to begin with. I know we're covering it again, and it's kind of silly. But there are almost everything in the shitcoin space is a Ponzi. The worst ones, of course, are the ones that take your Bitcoin and offer you 1% daily returns, which is in our next story. But if any one of us says Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, just send them the article by Parker Lewis. So if you want to click on that, yeah, Bitcoin's not a pyramid scheme. There you go. So if anyone is ever calling Bitcoin a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi, just go ahead, Google for this article, check the video description. It's on the longer side, kind of like my articles, but check that out. That's a good read about why Bitcoin is not a Ponzi scheme. But there's also some, I guess there's a little bit of confusion. All these shitcoins, especially the DeFi crap, is a lot closer to being a Ponzi scheme than something like, obviously Bitcoin is not a Ponzi scheme at all. Ethereum and things like Litecoin, they're borderline. They're a little bit more borderline. I mean, Litecoin has a finite supply for now. That can easily be changed. Again, read my article on decentralization for that. When people say Litecoin has, there will only be 84 million Litecoin, I question that because their decentralization isn't that strong. So changing that is not as, well, it's not difficult at all. It's pretty difficult in Bitcoin. I don't believe it's difficult to change in Litecoin. No one has tried changing it yet, but I believe that it's doable if anyone really cared or wanted it. So yes, but there are legit Ponzi schemes. I don't know why people keep falling for them. I think that's just our next article. Anything that says they can offer you a 1% daily return, and then the headline says there's something wrong with this bot, where the bot was promising you 1% daily return. No, there was never a bot. It was always a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. All right. So just to summarize, so Dave is saying that Bitcoin is a big Ponzi scheme. That's sometimes a shot at Bitcoin that people make. But as you mentioned, we had Parker Lewis's article. It explains into detail what a Ponzi scheme is. So you have the SEC saying, in the classic pyramid scheme, participants attempt to make money solely by recruiting new participants into the program. The hallmark of these schemes is the promise of sky-high returns in a short period of time for doing nothing other than handing over your money and getting others to do the same. And we have a handy chart, how the pyramid scheme works. Some guy at the top asking other people to join, promising these returns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have this other chart showing Bitcoin, how Bitcoin works, and there's just a fixed supply of 21 million. And whether you gain or whether you lose, it's not the same as a Ponzi scheme. So we have this report of an actual Ponzi scheme of about, let's see, some 120,000 Bitcoins are reportedly in jeopardy as a popular Spanish trading bot glitches and customers can't access their funds. So in this little scheme, this bot offered 1% daily returns to anyone willing to invest at least $3,500. It also offered bonuses to those participants who got new referrals. So yeah, this sounds like a classic Ponzi scheme where people are being told you're going to get 1% returns. Then suddenly we're hearing that they have an announcement saying that the bot no longer works. So you can't make contributions to the platform. All accounts are frozen without the possibility of reinvestment. Profits from this past month have not been paid and all withdrawals have been stopped. And so, as you mentioned, Tone, that's what a Ponzi scheme is. Yeah. Well, you want to add anything?
There is a difference between a Ponzi scheme and a pyramid scheme. I don't know how much time I want to spend going into it, but this 1% daily return promise is a classic Ponzi scheme. Now, a Ponzi scheme is a type of pyramid scheme, but not every pyramid scheme is necessarily a Ponzi. So a lot of the shit in the crypto space are more pyramid schemes, not necessarily Ponzi schemes. This is a straight up Ponzi. Now, I will mention that back in 2017 or 18 at some conference, I did meet a guy, a friend of a friend, who was actually running a crypto hedge fund that was promising 1% daily returns because this 18-year-old kid was trading Bitcoin on BitMax. That's probably worse than this current Ponzi scheme. This Ponzi scheme offering you 1% returns without an 18-year-old actively trading it will probably last longer.
All right. Thank you.
I don't know if Jimmy wants to comment on it.
Oh, Jimmy, you want to add anything else?
If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And the sad reality is, if you put it in this sort of way, people, I think, can say, "Oh, how could they be so stupid? How could they do that?" You know, you couch it in terms of DeFi, somehow it's better.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, if this was called DeFi, it would probably, and it had a token, it would probably still be running and maybe at the very top of the list.
Interesting point. Moving on, we also have some developments in Israel. A couple of politicians there want to recognize Bitcoin as a currency, not an asset right now. It's a asset, and so they're getting taxed capital gain tax about 25%. There's a sort of movement among politicians there to have a new bill that proposes to recognize Bitcoin as a digital currency instead of an asset. We have also an article from this website, new bill in the Knesset, Bitcoin will be recognized as currency and not as an asset for tax purposes. And we have this debate in the United States as well. Bitcoin is, however, a commodity right now. You want to weigh in on that, Tone? Bitcoin, commodity or asset?
No, see, the one thing I really like about the story is the main reason why they're trying to change its definition of what Bitcoin is specifically for the purposes of not paying the capital gains tax. So that is actually a really good thing. So that's the thing that I like the most. Like, obviously, because I mean, this helps people. Most countries want to tax you as much as possible, but there's other countries which don't tax you at all. Dubai, for example, or what other countries don't tax you? I mean, the states that don't tax you, but still a federal tax. But there are countries where the tax rate is effectively zero. I believe Bermuda is one of those. And it's great that Israel is trying to push for Bitcoin to be recognized as a currency so that there is no taxes on holding that Bitcoin, because that could drive more people from the Bitcoin space to Israel, holding their money in Bitcoin, having Bitcoin go up in value, and having more money to actually build companies. Bitcoin is fairly active in Israel, and there's lots of companies out of Israel in the Bitcoin space. So I do see this as a positive, but this needs to be a positive all around the world. It's insane that I know your Bitcoin goes up a lot, and that's why the government wants to tax you, and that's why MicroStrategy's bought into it. But as Bitcoin gets used more and more as a currency, this should be a reasonable argument across the world. Now, it's going to be a hard argument to push through the politicians because they basically see us as a cash cow. If people are holding Bitcoin, we can just milk them for taxes. But all it takes is, you know, a couple of leaders at the top that hold a lot of Bitcoin, and they can push this through, and suddenly there's no more capital gains tax on Bitcoin. The more countries that do it, the better, and they will get a lot of people. Like, a lot of Bitcoiners will be interested in moving into your country if you don't have capital gains taxes on Bitcoin, and they can build companies there because they're going to be wealthier.
Right. Well, that's one of the arguments in the article. It mentions that these politicians want this bill pass through because they don't want this tax to inhibit innovation. So this is a huge inhibitor, this 25% tax, and using digital currencies, and Israel wants to be a country in the forefront of using virtual currencies and developing digital assets. Jimmy, you want to weigh in?
Well, I'm not a fan of the capital gains tax in general, because you're getting taxed twice. Once when you make it as income, and then a second time when you actually take risks with the money and then it gains. And of course, we all know it's kind of all a charade anyway, because everything's going up because the Fed's printing so much money. So almost everything makes nominal returns, but it might not have actually made money in real terms. Would it be better if it were classified as a currency? Yeah, but I mean, all of these like distinctions and boundaries are more or less arbitrary and determined by the people in power anyway. My personal preference would be for them to print money to get out of all this trouble, which is the direction that the world is heading in anyway, instead of taxing everybody and putting up complicated rules and things like that. I suspect that perhaps that's the direction Israel is going. I don't know. I've been there a couple of times, and both times, you know, there were a ton of Bitcoin people there and things already. Will it cause people to move to Israel? I don't know. It's not the most stable country in the sense that there's a lot of war and things that go on there and things like that. So I would hold off, although, you know, I enjoyed my time in Tel Aviv and so on. But yeah, I mean, Tone's right. There is sort of a race to the bottom effect here, which I hope will cause governments to compete. I'm hoping for lots of smaller governments. Part of the reason why Israel can move so fast on this stuff is because they are kind of a small country. The smaller the country, the better, you know, more experimentation and better and quicker decisions that they can make. I'm hoping that to be the case all over the world in the next 50 years or so.
All right, great.
Yeah, well, just one last comment. A capital gains tax, another way to think of capital gains tax, it's a tax on your intelligence, basically, because if you invest wisely and you profit from your investment, you're being taxed on investing your money wisely. So it's basically an intelligence tax.
All right.
Productivity tax.
Productivity tax. Speaking of Bitcoin, investing in Bitcoin, we've got one major investor, MicroStrategy's Michael Saylor, who invested about 425 million into the coin. So he's saying Bitcoin is safer after moving firms' cash into crypto. He had a bunch of, I guess, reserve cash laying around. He was investing it in safe short-term U.S. government securities, very conventional. And so now he's been pumping it into Bitcoin. Earlier this year, he said that, you know, once the pandemic hit, he'd been reading up on some Andreas Antonopoulos, some, you know, Bitcoin standard. And now he's all in, or he's very bullish on Bitcoin. He estimates that so-called asset inflation will surge to more than 20% a year, eroding purchasing power of the US dollar. And so that Bitcoin is a safe bet. But so now Michael Saylor has become this Bitcoin famous guy in crypto Twitter, but there are also some critiques on Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy.
Go back to that article for a second. The reason why we pulled up that particular story is because if you scroll down, he specifically further down, all the way. I don't know why they saved it for the end. It was basically him saying that he can dump like $200 million worth of coins on a Saturday. So if you just scroll up a little bit, it's somewhere over there in this Bloomberg piece. And
okay.
Yeah, right there. So he's basically like one day he's talking about holding it for 100 years, and the next day he's talking about dumping it on the next Saturday. So this was a big, you know, story hitting the crypto headlines.
Right. There, and moving on to one of the big critiques of him. Well, here's one analysis on Twitter. So MicroStrategy made an odd corporate investment last summer by designating Bitcoin as its preferred treasury reserve asset and by allocating 425 million of its excess cash to Bitcoin, an average price of 11,000 over 11,000. The position lost 7.3% since, down by 31 million. So he wasn't really looking for a safe and dependable asset, this guy accuses, to park treasury reserves. There's many effective options for treasury reserves in traditional markets, and resorting to Bitcoin looks odd. MicroStrategy framed the decision as if it was about safety of reserve assets, but in reality aimed, one, to encourage other corporates with excess cash to follow their example, which in turn would hopefully boost the price of Bitcoin after they already established their position. The second and more central goal, to distract from the real issue that MicroStrategy was suffering from, lacking attractive opportunities to generate a sufficient return on capital. For more than a decade, MicroStrategy fell short in creating value as a public company, and that was not sustainable. This is revealed by the CEO's strange assertion his treasury assets were melting like an ice cube at an annual inflation rate of 10% to 25%. What he's really complaining is the double-digit returns his tech competitors were generating and MicroStrategy's inability to keep up. Tone, you wanna, okay, you raised some good points.
I want to go down a little bit further here. So it's a little more than that when he pulls up charts of the stock prices. Yeah, there. So I thought this was a really interesting tweet storm. So there's a couple of things that is going on in this tweet storm. So first of all, at the very top of the tweet, well, I don't know who this guy is, but he's making very good points. He also claims that MicroStrategy bought into Bitcoin last summer, not this summer. I don't know if that's a typo. I don't know if that's true. I don't know about the details. I'm sure MicroStrategy wasn't public about when they actually bought the Bitcoin. We assume they bought it this past summer, but if they did buy it last summer, they would have been sitting on a pretty shitty position when Bitcoin was crashing during COVID. But this is a very interesting graphic that over the last 5 years, their stock has grossly underperformed in the tech sector. And it's basically an accusation saying that the structure of MicroStrategy isn't set up very well. He only owns 25% of the company, but he has 75% of the power within the company. So he can kind of outrule and buy into Bitcoin basically as a way to get around the company's horrible performance. Now, remember, both things can be true. This doesn't mean that buying into Bitcoin was a mistake, but I really, if you scroll down a little bit further, I mean, I really liked this tweet storm because it fills in a bunch of holes. And the biggest hole that I had over the last week or so, my view is no one's heard of this guy prior to a month ago. And he has a company to run, but suddenly he's on everybody's podcast. You know, he's easy to get a quote from. He's goes on Pump's show, goes on Stephen Levere's show. Who knows how many other podcasts he's done. I was going to hit him up to see if he wants to speak at Unconfiscatable. Clearly he has the time, right? So what is his job at this point? Is his job to run the company as the CEO, or is his job, similar to Tone Vays, Andreas Antonopoulos, promoting Bitcoin? Though not as much for Andreas these days as we covered in the previous show. But like, what is his job? I had the same criticism of Patrick Byrne of Overstock. What is his job? Is his job running Overstock, or is his job being a speculator and creating blockchain companies? And when Overstock got rid of Patrick Byrne as their CEO, their stock goes up like 500%. Now, MicroStrategy did get a huge stock boost. MicroStrategy did get a big stock price rise on this news, so it certainly helped his stock. But this does, it just makes a lot of sense, and it fills a lot of holes. Now, that doesn't mean that it was a mistake to buy into Bitcoin. I think it's a great move to buy into Bitcoin, and I think more companies should do it. But this tweet storm definitely, I'm a big Occam's razor guy. The simplest explanation is usually the accurate. And this fills in a lot of holes for me because so many things in this story over the last month just were not adding up.
Yeah, it's interesting how he this guy shows that, MicroStrategy has been having a poor performance lately. I noticed that one of Michael Saylor's questions in another podcast was at the end, why doesn't Jack Dorsey invest his $1 billion into it? And clearly by appearing in all these podcasts, he's trying to spread some, encouragement for people to buy Bitcoin right now. So he wants the people to buy in and to make the price go up. Jimmy, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not sure if it's factually correct, at least the first tweet, because he said that MicroStrategy bought 425 million at an average of 11,111. If I understand what Michael Saylor said, he bought a position for 250 million during the March area. Might be an average of $5,000 to $7,000 or something like that. But then, added to his position 175 million in the last couple of months, and that might have been 11,011. So
right, and Jimmy,
this position, I don't think he's lost on the Bitcoin position. What he's saying is he's already lost $35 million, and that's part of his negativity.
Jimmy, hold on. Like, here's my thing. Notice how in that tweet it says last summer. Last summer was a pump to $14,000. No, Christine, all the way up. First tweet.
No. I mean, last summer might be this past summer or something. I don't know.
That's usually this. I mean, this is the question, right? Like if he literally means last summer, that's the summer of 2019. And during the summer of 2019, Bitcoin went from 8,000 all the way to 14. And then it was consolidating between like 9.5 and like 12. So that $11,000 price makes perfect sense if the tweet is taken literally and last summer means 2019. But I don't know.
Yeah, but if that's the case, he has to have insider information that's not been released by anyone else. Because according to Michael Saylor, he bought during the COVID crisis for 250 million, and then he added to his position 175 million in the last couple of months. These numbers, I don't know if he's just doing bad math, but a lot of the premise is based on, okay, well, he made a bad investment in Bitcoin because it's down $35 million. And that, by the way, is probably wrong now because Bitcoin's gone up a few $100s since he made this tweet. The point that he's making, though, about MicroStrategy having had kind of bad performance and that it can't beat the 10 to 25% returns that some of these other very hot tech stocks have been getting. I think the most notable one being something like Apple or Tesla even, and Amazon and many stocks like that. I think speaks a little bit to the asset inflation that's actually been happening because of all this monetary expansion. These companies are not worth that based on their cash flows or the profit that they're making. They're worth that based on people having nowhere to park their money. And this being one of the few places. But he does make some good points. I do think that Michael Saylor is trying to pump the price of Bitcoin by going on a lot of these podcasts and saying the things that he's saying. He does seem to be trying to get into the good graces of Bitcoiners by appearing on their podcast, saying more or less what we've been saying for a long time and agreeing with us and so on. Now, does that mean that there's no ulterior motive here? I mean, I'm guessing that this is done for MicroStrategy. I mean, he owns 25% of the company, so he obviously clearly has a very big stake in this. Is it nefarious or is it trying to trick somebody or anything like that? I don't think so.
Is it a Hail Mary play? That's what I think.
I mean, I don't know if it's a Hail Mary play necessarily either. When you have $500 million, I mean, you can do a lot of things with $500 million. There are a lot of options for you to try different things, but this is a very nice bet like that he's making. Now, do I believe every word out of Michael Saylor's mouth? No, but do I think that directionally he's in Bitcoin because he thinks it'll go up? Yes. Is he trying to do something bad or nefarious like this guy is hinting? I don't think so.
Okay.
Well,
Right.
I wouldn't call it nefarious. There's nothing illegal about this, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with this. That's why I'm saying both things can be true, and this could turn out to be this probably should turn out to be a really good play, assuming he's still the CEO into the future, like unlike what happened with Patrick Byrne.
Yeah, I don't know. It's possible that there's probably things going on behind the scenes. Maybe some shareholders are upset, or they're talking about doing something else, or like going in a different direction, or maybe he has some internal political struggles or whatever. It's hard to know what the exact motivations for a person doing what they're doing are. But I mean, as far as it's hard to be on the outside looking in and saying, well, this is exactly what's happening. And it has a little too much of that. I mean, he points out very good facts, like the fact that the stock hasn't done well, and that,
and also, by the way,
kind of an odd choice given what everyone else is doing. But, at the same time, like, you can't sort of assume what the other person is.
Right, but also, Jimmy, that number, that average price of 11,100, and that's straight up from publicly available information. That's the number. That's the amount of money they spent, 425 million, divided by the amount of bitcoins they claim to have, which is like 38,250. So you just divide one by the other, you get the 11,000. But also their broker that did the deal probably took a nice hefty fee, so they probably lost a good.
Okay, so we know the amount of bitcoins that they have is 38,000 for sure.
Apparently, yeah, 38,250. I don't know if that's public knowledge. I don't know how accurate that number is. Someone put that in the chat. We can fact check that. How much?
Well, in that case, then I don't know. Maybe he has a point there. That's a very high average price if you accumulate it during the early part of COVID. But I mean, regardless, this is something that you can do with your reserve assets. I'm hoping that he gets proven right by this, but that's not to say he's not trying to escape from something that's that he might get in trouble for, or something like that. As a CEO, like, if you're not giving your shareholders value, you can get kicked out at any point. So yeah, who knows?
Right. So considering that's the average price, Bitcoin did not spend much time above that number this year at all, actually. So this year, to get that price, he had to have bought the majority of his Bitcoin literally in August, because mid-July is when we crossed 11K, and we stayed above 11K until like September 3rd. So that's the only time this year Bitcoin spent above 11,000 and only got as high as 12.5. So if he did only buy it this year, he literally bought it the worst possible time, which I can also say the same thing if he bought most of it last year, same thing. So yeah, I mean, look, to me, this is just interesting. And I think it's something to keep in mind that people do have a tendency to, talk their book. It certainly makes sense for him to pump Bitcoin because he owns Bitcoin for the company and whatever. And this is the criticism that I always have with altcoins. And my view is this. When you promote a legitimate product, it's okay. Like if some guy, it's actually somewhat illegal for hedge funds to do. But the reason why, in case people say, the reason why I don't have a problem with someone promoting Bitcoin while owning it versus promoting any other shitcoin for owning it. The reason why I'm hypocritical when it comes to that and have a double standard is because I think Bitcoin is a legitimate asset that will go up over the years, while everything other than Bitcoin has a high probability of going down versus Bitcoin over the years. So anyone that's promoting a shitcoin, there is a 99% chance they're promoting it in order to dump it on you, which is not the case in Bitcoin. It is the case in Bitcoin maybe 10 to 15% of the time, as opposed to 85 to 90% of the time. So the ratio is just split. There are plenty of people that are pumping Bitcoin to sell you the Bitcoin at a higher price. Maybe Michael Saylor is one of them. Maybe he's not. But in the Bitcoin space, I think the majority do want to hodl it for as long as possible. In the shitcoin space, that ratio is just reversed. And there is a 90% chance that, and the shittier the coin, the higher the probability they're only promoting it to dump it on you. And that's why it bothers me.
Just to that, I'll add that Michael Saylor does monitor crypto Twitter, and he's already
blocked them.
He'll block you. He'll block you if you start making these kind of critiques at him. But yeah, great conversation. I love your inputs. Last but not least, just wrapping things up, we have some do-it-yourself sticker library that you want to mention, Tone.
Oh yeah, someone I know put together like an open source kind of file for your stickers, whether they're bumper stickers or general stickers. So these are free and available. I have the link in the video description. So if you want to go there and like grab these files to make your own stickers, go for it. No copyright, as far as I know, that will stop you.
Excellent.
I personally hate bumper stickers because they make your car look really ugly. I can't stand those cars with like 30 bumper stickers in the back. I'm always like, why would you do that to your car? But, you know, I mean, to each their own. If you like the giant stickers, then that might make sense.
So look, Jimmy, I don't understand why people are so triggered. We're not even criticizing him. We're just pointing out that there is logical legitimacy to that criticism. This is not our critique of Michael Saylor. And people are being really triggered. This is FUD, this is not. This is just logical reasoning and something to think about that people should think about. That it's not FUD. There's no fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is just, you know, someone just took provided their thoughts on the matter. And I think they're interesting. I don't know if Jimmy thinks they're interesting or they're crazy, but I think they're interesting and worth, you know, a serious discussion. And listening to Michael Saylor on Pop's podcast will not change anything, right? I heard parts of that podcast. It doesn't change it. It's like when we call certain people straight up scammers, like Richard Hart, listening to Richard Hart on Leah Halpern's podcast is not going to change our mind. Like,
yeah, I would caution just sort of like lionizing anybody. And this is something that I wrote in my newsletter this week. It's that people tend to, you know, just sort of defend anybody that's defending Bitcoin and stuff. We don't know Michael Saylor very well. He's been a public figure for a long time, but he came into the Bitcoin space in the last couple of months, and it's entirely possible he has a past. I'm not saying he has one. He might have a past that might not be that great. I don't know. Tone, you just mentioned like Richard Hart. Like back in 2017, he was on like podcasts with us, or like shows with us and stuff like that. He was talking sweetly about everything, and he ended up like going over and creating a complete Ponzi scheme scam. Right. So you know, like you just because they're saying the right thing right now doesn't necessarily mean that they're saints and they can do no wrong. And this is as true of them as it is of us, me and Tone. Like if you guys ever catch us saying something wrong, we expect you to call us out. Look, that's not to say that we're not saying a lot of right things too. And you know, Michael Saylor is saying some really good things, but you know, like, don't now just like go and trust everything he says. It's you know, you still have to use your critical thinking faculties and everything else. The whole idea of this space is to verify, don't trust. And yeah, that's what we're basically saying. It's not Jimmy, saying he's a bad person or anything.
One more comment from the live stream. People are all up in his business. Yes, because he put himself in that position. Nobody made him go on TV and do all these interviews about Bitcoin. He could have just bought Bitcoin for his company and not say anything to anyone. Like we didn't, like he put himself in this position for public criticism, and people will look into his history and analyze everything that he says and everything that he does. I mean, he put himself in the spotlight.
Yeah. And everyone was excited when he got into that spotlight, and I think it is easy to be all excited and rah, rah, rah for Michael Saylor and investing 425 million in Bitcoin. But as you mentioned, it is good also to keep a critical eye active whenever you can. Taking a look at the Bitcoin transactions, Jimmy, what's going on with the mempool?
Well, it is Friday, so of course we're at the end of this like 5 bumps. This bump looks like the smallest, I guess, in terms of transactions and the amount of things in the mempool. If you're trying to get in transactions in the next hour or so, 20 to 30 will probably do it. If you're trying to get in overnight, I'm going to guess that the 1 to 2, 2 to 3 will clear. But the 1 sat per byte is probably not going to clear that. But if you're willing to wait out the weekend, it'll almost certainly probably clear unless there's some serious price action or something crazy going on. Yeah, and this has been the pattern for a while now that during the day the fees go up, but in the evenings they tend to clear. This week we've been clearing at around like 6 to 8 sat per byte overnight. But during the weekends, even the 1 Satoshi per byte tends to clear. So we'll see. Yeah, I don't think there's a long weekend or anything. So yeah, happy weekend.
Yeah, happy Friday, happy weekend. And we want to remind people to pick up a copy of Programming Bitcoin by Jimmy Song, as well as the little Bitcoin book, Learn How to Program a Bitcoin Library with this hands-on guide from one of the leading teachers on Bitcoin and Bitcoin programming. Author Jimmy Song shows you the basics, including the math, blocks, network, and transactions behind this popular cryptocurrency and its blockchain payment system. You'll also learn how simplified payment verification and how proof of work works. We also want to remind people about Unconfiscatable coming up in April. We're hoping that things open up, that people can travel again, and if you can, come to Las Vegas. Jimmy will be there, Tone will be there, Giacomo will be there, all of our favorites on the Bitcoin Brief will be there. Thank you very much for all your analysis on today's headlines, guys. And with that, take it away, Tone. You've got some price analysis.
All right, we're gonna look at this pretty quick. I did not have a show. We're gonna start off with some shitcoin price analysis because I was curious if BCash hit its new all-time low. Man, I was such an idiot. Like I got rid of all of mine right on this candle right here. It was the second week. And I'm like, oh man, I need to take my 10%. And right here, you feel like an idiot because then it goes all the way up and gives you 20%. But those that have not gotten their BCash out of their Bitcoin, well, the best you can do is 2%. And my threshold for forks is 3%. So that's why I never cashed in any others. It's not like I have that much to cash in anyway. So it wouldn't have made a big difference. Yep. So
remember, you get 1.5% from BSV as well. So like this chart's a little bit off because you have the accumulation from August, November of 2018.
If you still haven't pulled it out yet, you still have the BSV coins as well. But I don't know how many exchanges list them these days. Who the hell knows? A lot of them dumped their BSV. Anyway, so there's your BCash. I mean, I put this arrow down into negative territory. Eventually we'll get there. It's just taking way longer. And I have one more shitcoin for you guys. Since we were talking about Dave Portnoy, who famously bought into the Link scam. And the Link scam was trading at $20 earlier this August. And I believe 3 days ago on September 23rd, it was down to $7.50. So it had fallen about 70% or more in a matter of a month. It is now back to only falling 50%. And the sooner this thing goes down back to 10 cents, the better off life and the world will be. All right. Enough shitcoins. Enough of that. Yeah, sure. We'll save it. And let's go to Bitcoin. All right, let's take a look. Here's the weekly chart. Today's Friday. Bitcoin does tend to rise on Saturdays and tends to fall on Sundays. That's what I've noticed. Of course, it won't happen now that you've watched it long enough do that and potentially thinking about trying to profit from that. It clearly will not do that. But this was a good bounce towards the end of the week. We're still dealing with a negative candle. Let me turn this off. We found a little bit of a bug, so the MRI is going to get delayed on the release a little bit, guys. It was not a fun day today trying to track that bug down, and we're still not done. So let me turn that off. But I am getting there. I'm getting closer, and we'll get there. So I'm still in a no trade zone on the weekly scale, and hopefully we'll have some resolution next week. Daily chart. Daily chart continues to lose tone days. In my bet for an unreasonably expensive dinner, I believe I am now down how many days? Tone's bet. I am down 68 days as of 2 hours from now. I will be down 68 days. I need to lose 90 days, but we're getting there. So I only have 98 days left, and I got to avoid 23 days. That's going to be challenging. Bitcoin would need to fall below 10K and pretty much stay there for me to win the bet. I'm pretty much assuming I'm going to lose it. This was a very nice bounce off the 128-day moving average. However, until we break above the next moving average and above this high of 11,000, this doesn't actually mean anything. We had a nice big day yesterday. Let's see how we close out the weekend, and then we can reevaluate. As long as right now, even on a daily chart, Bitcoin is in a complete no trade zone. Would I consider it bullish if tomorrow we start crossing above 10.8? Not really, because it's happening over the weekend and on a Saturday. I like the fact that the GBTC premium is pretty low at 10%, but I don't trust the price action right here. I don't trust that I will be bullish above this moving average. Because above this moving average is also above the prior swing high. That's when I become a bull. Until then, I am going to be totally neutral, and I would be a bear the moment we fall below a short-term bear. I'm still a long-term bull. I believe we are in a bull market. Just because we're in a bull market doesn't mean we can't be short-term overvalued, falling down to the $9,000 area. So on a short-term basis, I am short-term bearish below the 128-day moving average, and short-term and bullish across all time frames above 11,200. As long as we are between these two moving averages, I'm not going to have a position in the space. I think I didn't mean to do that. As long as we are between these two moving averages, so what's the price here? As long as we are between 10.3 and 11. Well, we're not going to get there tomorrow, so well, we could, but I doubt it. As long as we're between 10.3 and 11.2, this $900 range, I am not going to pick a direction whatsoever. That's based on daily and probably weekly charts. Weekly, I may be even more conservative. On a 4-hour scale, we just hit an MRI top as well on a 4-hour scale. So we are in this consolidation mode. I am neutral across all time frames, so I am totally useless to you guys for Bitcoin price analysis going into the weekend. There you go. Glad you stuck around the whole show just to hear that at the end. This is gold. This is me testing the indicators. Let's go to what's going on in gold right now. And gold is not looking great. I am going to continue to anticipate that gold would pull back towards the 1750 area. The stock market today rallied nicely. Didn't realize that. Did not look at the charts at all. Was dealing with the MRI. So that's nice going into the weekend. Also meaningless unless you get back at the least above 3,340, the area of the breakdown. Up until then, this is a potential dead cat bounce into this breakdown area to then go and make a new low. So not that much going on in this space. Hey guys, the workshop is still planned for next Saturday, a week from Saturday. The first time I'm going to be teaching the MRI. Signing up for this workshop does get you access to MRI. if you have not had access to the prior indicators. If you did have access to the prior indicators, you will get access to the MRI by having that access. I'm going to be in the presentation that I plan to make. I'll be making a document that kind of talks about the differences between the two and what's new in the MRI. And I will publish that somewhere, so you will be able to see it. But yeah, so this workshop you can sign up for. That's it. That's it for me. You guys can support with the affiliate page. You guys know what to do. And on that note, I can go ahead and end screen share.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your insights, Tone. We've got Tone Vays, our resident trader, educator, and host of Unconfiscatable in April in Las Vegas. And we've got Jimmy Song, author of the Little Bitcoin book, as well as Programming Bitcoin and an expert in all things technically related to Bitcoin. I'm Christine Lee, your host. Thanks for joining us.
Fiat This song is done.
Bye, guys.